So this is another car review, and this time we have the Vaughn V10. Although I have a little something special, which is the Vaughn V10 XP gloves. So I think this is where I would start with first, because I think this is interesting. So this is a Vaughn V10 XP blocker. Now, what is it that's different about it? Well, it doesn't really look like kind of the classic Vaughn blockers, in my opinion. It really kind of looks like what is probably a Lefebvre style blocker. Zipper here, and it's even got this lace on the side. I mean, just look at the sidewall. I think it's pretty reminiscent of what a Lefebvre style blocker would be like. And here is interesting. It's got a full one-piece cuff here. And what would I say about this? I think it's balanced. It's nice on the wrist. The sidewall is all right as far as stiffness. It's not meant to be a giant big block. It's got an index finger like this. You know, and it was pretty mobile, or at least covered for my fingers, and the stick. It didn't really interfere. There's this wear piece that I do like, because I know that in the past I've had sticks that where it gets worn down there. I don't have any issues with it sliding for my stick, but that's fine by me. For the palm, I enjoy it. It is a pretty standard sized palm in my estimation, and so it was nice and familiar, I found. I think their Nash is, or their Sure Grips style material is this one that's here with their sort of Nash palm, and so I felt like I didn't have to fight this blocker at all. I do like the Vaughn has the quick slide material. Here has a kind of a wear place, so that's really nice. What else was I going to say? The pillow is nice and thick, and so it feels like you can kind of pull in for that. One of the things that I was reminded about blockers in general is just the way the fingers attach. Sometimes I find that it is a little annoying. So this is not just only on Vaughn blockers, but you know, when they attach on this side and on the side, when your fingers pull down, it kind of curls just like that, right? And so then you're onto the seam. And I think I've seen it on Brian's where sometimes they have the attachment just on the back here, and so the pull doesn't twist. Or in some companies, they'll actually just make all this without a seam on the side. But so that's not just unique to Vaughn, but it's something I'm reminded of. Like, right, this is a thing that happens with blockers. Yeah, I just was very interested to see that this is a feature blocker that exists, but it is a custom only. And as far as I understand, the XP line is a custom only line where people can have more options. I think I didn't get to see what the spec sheet was for this blocker, but I guess it's something that is not necessarily the stock one. But if someone were interested in Vaughn and wanted Vaughn to produce something for them that was in this style, that could be done. Okay, so next I think is another interesting one is the Vaughn V10 XP 70 degree brake. So this is the Vaughn take, I believe, as I understand, on what the 580 brake would be. So what I remember about the Vaughn XP Pro Carbon glove, really I think dating back to the VE8, they basically came out with another Velocity line that really was not like the previous Velocity and looked like a Lefebvre 590 with their 60 degree brake. And I was like, oh, okay, so now basically Vaughn has their copy to what a Lefebvre glove would be if they wanted it. And so that's what I saw really on what the XP was for the V8 and V9, and then this V10, it just kind of dropped off of anything public. And I think some sites just would pop up with some information about the XP 70 degree brake. So I think now I understand, as far as I know, is that this is a custom only glove for a person who wants a Vaughn glove. They can have it this style, not like the Velocity V10 glove, but this, what used to be kind of the XP Pro Carbon style, with either the 60 degree brake, so it's like the 590, or their 70 degree brake, which I understand is like Vaughn's take on the 580. And so what I found is, I guess I'll just show it like this, and I know I'm not in a great place to see, but this is how it closes. And you'll notice that it doesn't have that kind of characteristic flop over like this that you'll sometimes see on a 580, and I think that's okay, because what it feels like, what Vaughn did was they basically took what was a 590 and then tweaked it, and so I can feel the brake angle is different from what I would expect, because I do own a Lefebvre 590, and I find like with that, when I close it, it's more kind of like, when I close the 590, it's more kind of like this sometimes, and so the brake kind of sits in this part of the palm, so it kind of closes around that way. But this, I feel like they say people who have heard it described as a bit more upright, so where it kind of sits more across like this, so your palm is going to be more using full fingers to pull it, whereas I find with the 590 is kind of like this, whereas the 580 is more like this. Now, one thing that I'm noticing, I'm trying to pay attention to why this doesn't feel like a 580 all the time, or like what I would have expected from a 580, is I think that the thumb angle is not very high. So it's not like you're like this, because I find sometimes when people describe a 580, like, oh yeah, you're just like pulling your fingers into your palm, which I get, and then they kind of stick out their thumb like this. But I feel like this thumb is more moderate. It feels like what I would feel for the 590, but they just changed the brake, so instead of kind of going like this, it's more like this. So I can feel the difference in how it feels in the hand, but it closes still pretty nicely. And so I think instead of, whereas I feel like with the 580, it really, and I have to try it on again, I feel like it just pulls, the glove pulls in a way that you feel it just kind of like the balance of the glove moves over so much on your hand. Whereas for this, I feel like it's like a tweaked 590. And so I think catching with it was all right. I wasn't so great, maybe more on the palm, but at least how it felt in the hand was pretty nice. So just to show that again, it doesn't have necessarily the same fold over, but that's the glove. Now on the backhand, I mean, you can kind of see it has a very well, to me, what I recall from the 590, the thing, so yeah, it's got all the strapping that's here. One of the things that Vaughn has decided to get on this XP glove is it has this lace, so it doesn't actually go up. So, but they actually kind of cut it right here, like that. So you can still, if your hand were in, it can still access all the straps. You just don't, and this doesn't come up, but this is super loose. But yeah, I know that kind of the way things have been is to have this to be Velcro, but it's not. It's just the lace. Now, when I was looking around with this, with one of the reps here, or sorry, the salespeople here in the store, there was something that we saw that was very interesting, and which again goes into what is the XP line, is that there are different options. Check this out. So look at that, 50, 55, 60, 70. So I actually don't know what any of that means, because no one has really said anything more. And well, again, I didn't see the spec sheet, but interesting. So 70 is this brake, 60 is kind of what is the 590 brake, but then these other two, is that a description of something else? What does that correspond to? Is it, you know, is that what their older models would be? 5500, Epic, 8800, you know, or even like the V Pro Carbon, well, what are the V Elite? Like, what else could those have been? But I don't know, so I can't know what to say. But you know, I find that with Vaughn gloves, they're more kind of like a pancake. They kind of just like fold over like this. There's of course that thumb to finger that people will talk about. I think like a pancake or a taco, which is kind of like, yeah, it's like a taco. It just kind of like curls over like this. With like SLR3, I remember. And I don't even know how to describe really the Velocity gloves, because I feel those have transformed, especially, you know, from like V7 where they had different lines, and then the V8, I think they kind of simplified it again, but I feel like it always kind of gets mishmash. But you know, Vaughn is a company where they do offer their older stuff, so for people who know what they like, and Vaughn, I know that exists. So perhaps, probably, the XP is for people who want older gloves, but they want to have this kind of graphic, then at least it can be options like that. It's just my guess. Now, as far as the V10 pads, this one is like what's being released, and I think there's been a lot said right now online. This the caption that was done by the social media team at United Sports Cycle were like, "This is not your daddy's velocities," and I agree. And yet, I feel like it still has a velocity. So I would describe it as like a modernized velocity pad for someone who really wants the feel that they have expected. I think it's there, but it has like features that are popular to kind of modern pads apply to this. So that makes it this kind of like legacy sort of pad that has these different features, but it definitely feels it has some of those other things, but that's how I feel in as far as it is. So what do I mean? So one of the things is like how they have done their knee block. It's now more integrated in, and so if you were to pull back in here, then it comes in so stiffer. There's a lot of Velcro here that really makes the pad way more solid into the core, but not too stiff, but it is pretty stiff. There are less played than there have been, I guess, in past models. You know, and then this calf part here is also nice and stiff, so that's been there. And then they've updated some of their strapping in the back, and I guess I won't say too much, but well, what would I say is that, you know, this is kind of their take now on, you know, what was the professor strap. Now it can kind of be attached on the outside here, or it can actually be attached on the inside right there, so it can get really snugged up. And then there's also a strap that comes across the back. So that's one of the ways that they've modernized the strapping in the back. The thing I've also noticed is like, still in this is a cool material here, Velcro in, so you can adjust that. The leg channel is very soft, so if you want that sort of feel against your leg, very soft, so it can get really snugged up there. Another big thing that did happen with this pad is they've stiffened up the core. So above the knee, I think it's stiff. It's still pretty chunky, and that was one of the things that I felt like, all right, it's still there. And so at least compared to some other pads where they have been moving to make this thin, like this look, this feel is still there. I found the boot was pretty soft when I was trying it out. They have toe ties that I thought were a decent length, but the thing to notice is this like boot channel, which is not even like flat, it's almost like poofy. So look at that boot channel, so it's so flat. So definitely sat higher, and this is a 32 pad, and I could feel that I was at the bottom of the knee stack. And so, you know, I mean, that's something for sizing to consider. But I mean, it made for a nice rotation. It was soft, so I didn't feel like it impeded the way that I wanted to move, at least from down low in the boot. I just feel like with this part, with the quick slide material, I thought that that continues to be very good as far as sliding. As far as closing the 5-hole, obviously, you know, that's on me to be a better goalie. Though I just felt like I wasn't closing it as well as I used to, or I would otherwise do with other pads. And I don't know if that's a function of, you know, kind of the design of the thigh or whatever, but or I just maybe had a bad game. But I did find that this just didn't close up as quickly as I would have liked. And I just know sometimes other pads, they surprise me with just the way they seal, but it was not the case with this one for me. But so this was an interesting pad. Oh right, and the other thing about a Vaughn pad is the rebounds were so soft off of this. I don't think I've ever felt pad, I just haven't played with pads that were like, oh, it's like this little pillow against this. So that's why I mean it's like a modernized version of velocity. So for people who want that feel, it's still there. And there are other things like, oh yeah, now we've got like a stiffer knee, and it's stiffer above or a stiffer knee block, and it's stiffer above the knee. There are things that are kind of common features, but if you still wanted like a V10, that's what this is like. So an interesting pad to try. I don't know that I like it as much for my own playing style, but I can see that it's catering to someone because I can feel some of those change in the characteristics. So anyways, thanks for watching all of this, and we'll look forward to just sharing more thoughts with the next set of gear.